My wife's coworker called me, whispering, "She's in the ER. You need to come now." When I arrived, the nurse said, "Are you the boyfriend?" I smiled and said, "No, I'm the husband." The room fell silent as I walked out forever. My phone rang while I was in the kitchen heating up leftovers. I almost didn't answer because the number was unfamiliar, but something in my gut told me to pick up. "Hello?" A shaky voice whispered, "Is this Jessica's husband?" I froze. "Who is this?" I work with her. She's in the ER. You need to come now." My chest tightened. What happened? A pause. A deep breath. Then, quieter, "I can't say over the phone." "Please. Just come." The line went dead. For a second, I just stood there, staring at my phone. My hands were cold, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I grabbed my keys and rushed to the car, my mind spinning in 100 directions. I ran red lights. I barely remembered the drive. The only thing I knew was that my wife, my Jessica, was in the hospital, and I had no idea why. When I pulled up to the ER, I practically ran inside. The bright white lights, the smell of antiseptic, the low hum of voices all blurred together as I rushed to the front desk. "My wife," I gasped. Jessica Carter." I got a call." The nurse glanced at her computer, typed something, then looked up. "She's in room 306. Down the hall." I turned without another word, my shoes squeaking against the floor. As I got closer, I saw a group of people standing outside the room. A few coworkers I vaguely recognized from office parties. They all looked at me, then quickly looked away. Something was wrong. My hands were shaking when I pushed open the door. The first thing I saw was Jessica lying in the hospital bed, her arm hooked up to and for. She looked pale, her eyes swollen like she had been crying. But it wasn't just her. Sitting beside her, holding her hand, was a man I had never seen before. The nurse inside turned to me and asked, "Are you the boyfriend?" I felt something inside me snap. I smiled, though it didn't feel like a smile. "No. I'm the husband." Silence. The air in the room turned thick, heavy, like the walls themselves were suffocating us. The guy, some early 30s, scruffy, good-looking in a way that made my stomach churn, slowly let go of Jessica's hand. His face paled. Jessica's breath hitched. Her fingers twitched on the blanket. The nurse, clearly realizing she had just stepped into something she wanted no part of, muttered something about checking on another patient and practically ran out of the room. I took a slow step forward, my hands clenched at my sides. "Someone explain. Now." Jessica swallowed hard. "It's not, don't." My voice was flat, cold, calmer than I thought possible. "Don't say, it's not what it looks like. We're way past that." She closed her mouth. I turned to the guy, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. "You. Who the hell are you?" His jaw tensed. He looked at Jessica, then back at me. He hesitated, like he was trying to pick the right words. "I'm someone who cares about her." I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, that's cute." Jessica winced. "Please, let me explain." I stared at her, waiting. Her fingers twisted in the blanket. "I didn't mean for this to happen. That's not an explanation." She took a shaky breath. We got close at work. It started as just talking, venting about stress. It wasn't supposed to be anything more. I tilted my head. But it was. Her eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted to hurt you." I felt my lip curl. "That's funny because you sure as hell didn't mind lying to me every night." Her face crumpled. "I was going to tell you." "When?" She hesitated. I took another step forward. "When, Jessica?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "I don't know." I exhaled sharply and ran a hand through my hair. My skin felt too tight, like I was barely holding myself together. The guy finally spoke. "Look, man." I turned to him, my voice sharp. "Shut up." He did. Jessica wiped at her eyes. "I'm sorry." I stared at her for a long time, at the woman I thought I knew, the woman I had built a life with. Then, without another word, I turned around and walked out. I walked out of that hospital room, but I didn't leave the building. Not yet. My mind was racing, my hands shaking. I needed a second to breathe, to process, to figure out what the hell had just happened. I made it down the hall before I stopped, pressing my palms against the cold wall. My chest felt tight. My marriage, my entire life, had just shattered in front of me. I should have left, gone home, packed a bag, done something. But there was one thing I couldn't shake. Why was Jessica in the ER? I had been so blindsided by the cheating that I hadn't even asked. She looked bad. Pale, weak. Hooked up to and for. This wasn't just guilt catching up to her. Something had happened. I wasn't sure why I cared. Maybe because, despite everything, she was still my wife. Or maybe because I wasn't ready to walk away without knowing the full truth. I turned back toward the nurse's station. She was still there, the same one who had called me her boyfriend. She glanced up, her face immediately tense. "Sir, what happened to her?" I asked, my voice low. She hesitated. I leaned in. "I'm still her husband, and I need to know." That seemed to convince her. She sighed, checked something on the computer, then lowered her voice. Dehydration. Malnutrition. Severe exhaustion. She collapsed at work. That threw me. I had been expecting something else, a car accident, maybe, or some sudden illness. Not this. The nurse kept going. She hadn't eaten in days. Barely any water, barely any sleep. Her body just shut down. My mouth felt dry. I swallowed. "Why?" She hesitated again, then glanced toward the room I had just walked out of. "You should ask her." I almost laughed. Ask her? The woman who had been lying to me for God knows how long. Yeah, no thanks. But something about this felt off. Jessica was a lot of things, a liar, a cheater, but she wasn't reckless. She took care of herself. She exercised, ate right. She would never let herself waste away like that, not unless something was eating her alive. I turned and walked back toward her room before I could stop myself. When I pushed the door open again, she was sitting up a little more, staring down at her lap. The guy, her guy, had moved to the corner of the room, rubbing his face like he was just as exhausted as she was. Both of them looked up when I walked in. Jessica's lips parted. "I thought you left." "Yeah, well," I muttered, crossing my arms, "I still have questions." Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. "What?" I nodded toward her. They told me what happened." "How long were you planning to run yourself into the ground before someone noticed?" Her eyes flickered with something, guilt, maybe. She looked away. The guy finally spoke up. "She's been struggling." I ignored him. "Jessica." She still wouldn't look at me. I exhaled sharply. "You're cheating on me. I get that. But this? This is something else. So tell me, what the hell is going on?" For a long time, she didn't say anything. The room was so quiet I could hear the beeping of the monitors, the distant murmur of doctors outside. Then, finally, she whispered, "I was trying to fix it." I frowned. "Fix what?" Her fingers gripped the hospital blanket. "Everything." She finally met my eyes, and what I saw there made my stomach twist. She looked broken. Like someone who had been carrying a weight too heavy for too long. "I was going to end it," she admitted, voice shaking. "With him. With you. With all of it." I felt the air shift. Even the guy in the corner tensed. Jessica sucked in a breath. I couldn't do it. I kept putting it off, kept telling myself I'd figure it out. And the more I waited, the worse it got. I wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating, because I knew I was hurting you. And him. And myself. But I didn't know how to stop. For the first time that night, I didn't know what to say. She let out a hollow laugh. "The funny thing is, I thought I had more time. I kept telling myself I could fix everything if I just tried hard enough. Then I collapsed at work, and I realized I had already lost." Her voice cracked on the last word. I clenched my jaw, my arms tightening over my chest. This didn't change what she did. It didn't erase the months of lies, the betrayal. But it did something I hadn't expected. It made me see how far gone she already was. Jessica had been drowning for a long time. And I had never noticed. I stood there, arms crossed, staring at my wife, this woman I thought I knew, who was now crumbling in front of me. A part of me wanted to scream at her, to ask her why she had done this, why she had let it go so far. But another part of me, a darker part, felt something else. A nagging feeling. A question. Was she telling me everything? Because something still didn't add up. I turned to him, the guy in the corner. And you? I asked. What were you planning to do? Sit back and wait for her to leave me? His jaw tightened. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I scoffed. That's rich. Jessica wiped at her face, looking exhausted. Don't do this, she mumbled. No, I shot back. We're doing this. We're talking about it. Since neither of you had the decency to tell me what was happening before I had to walk into this nightmare, I think I deserve that much. The guy, let's call him because I didn't give a damn what his real name was, exhaled sharply and ran a hand through his hair. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I almost laughed. Yeah? Then how was it supposed to be? He hesitated. I saw the way his eyes flickered toward Jessica, like he was waiting for her to answer. But she didn't. She just looked away. That's when I knew. They weren't on the same page. Something had happened that one of them hadn't planned for. I took a step closer. Let me guess. You thought she was going to leave me first. Maybe she told you she was going to, that it was only a matter of time. But then she didn't. And it started getting messy, didn't it? He shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I shot back. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you were strung along just as much as I was. Jessica squeezed her eyes shut. Please stop. But I wasn't stopping. Not now. I turned back to her. Did you even plan on choosing? She flinched. I took that as my answer. That gut feeling I had earlier, the one telling me something was off, was screaming now. Because this wasn't just some messy affair that spiraled out of control. No, there was something deeper here. Something she wasn't saying. And then, like a puzzle piece clicking into place, I remembered the nurse's words. She hadn't eaten in days. Barely any water, barely any sleep. I stared at Jessica, suddenly seeing her in a different light. She looked haunted. Not just guilty, scared. I took a slow breath. What aren't you telling me? Jessica stiffened. Even he looked at her now, like he was wondering the same thing. I felt my heart start to race. Jessica. She didn't answer. And that's when my stomach dropped. Because for the first time, I saw it. The real fear in her eyes. This wasn't just an affair. This was something worse. Jesus Christ, I whispered. What did you do? Jessica let out a choked sob, shaking her head, whispering, I'm sorry. And then my phone rang. I jolted, the sharp sound cutting through the tension like a knife. I didn't recognize the number, but something about it made my skin crawl. Slowly, I answered. Hello? A deep, cold voice spoke on the other end. You should have left when you had the chance. The line went dead. The room spun. My breath hitched. I pulled the phone away, staring at the screen, my pulse hammering in my ears. Jessica had gone completely still. She knew who it was. I took a shaky step forward. Jessica, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Who the hell was that? Her lip trembled. She looked at him, and his face suddenly twisted in realization. His eyes darted to mine, his hands clenched into fists. You told him, he snapped at her. Jessica shook her head rapidly. I didn't, I cut in. Told who? She let out a sharp breath, her shoulders shaking. Then, in the quietest voice, she whispered, I was never going to leave you, because I couldn't. He wouldn't let me. I felt my body go cold. This wasn't about the affair anymore. Jessica hadn't just been drowning in guilt. She had been trapped. And now, whoever was on the other end of that call? They knew I was involved. My grip tightened around my phone. My breathing felt shallow, my heart pounding against my ribs. He wouldn't let me. Jessica sat there, looking small, looking scared, her face pale as she squeezed the blanket in her fists. He, the guy who had been sitting in the corner like a kicked dog, had gone stiff too. His face shifted from anger to something I couldn't quite place, like a man realizing, too late, that he was in over his head. I swallowed hard. Jessica, I said slowly, carefully, who wouldn't let you? She didn't answer. I took a step forward, my voice colder now. Who the hell just called me? Her eyes darted to the door, like she was considering running. But she was too weak, too exhausted. He, her boyfriend, her affair partner, whatever the hell he was the one who broke first. His hands curled into fists, his whole body tense as he turned to her. "You told me you were going to handle this," he hissed. Jessica flinched. I tried." "You tried?" His voice was rising now. "Jesus Christ, Jess, you said it was under control. And now your husband's in this?" He threw his hands in the air. "We're both screwed." That was it. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't just an affair gone wrong. This wasn't just two selfish people who got caught in their own lies. This was something dangerous. A horrible, sinking feeling crawled up my spine. "Who is he?" I demanded. "Who is the guy that just called me?" Jessica sucked in a sharp breath, her hands shaking now. The machines beside her beeped a little faster, as if they could sense her pulse spiking. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "My boss." The room froze. I stared at her, trying to process those words. Her boss. I knew of him. Everyone did. He was the CEO of her company. Married. Older. The kind of man who had power, money, influence. A man who could ruin people's lives with a single email. I took a step back, my brain trying to piece this together. I exhaled sharply. "You weren't cheating with him, were you?" Jessica squeezed her eyes shut, her body trembling. Then, quietly, not willingly. The air in my lungs vanished. My fingers flexed at my sides. I turned, slowly, to the guy in the corner. "And you?" He hesitated. Then, with a grimace, he said, "She told me she was leaving him. That she was done." But, he shook his head. I didn't know how bad it really was. Until now. I almost laughed. A bitter, humorless sound. "So let me get this straight. You started screwing my wife, thinking she was just cheating on me, while the whole time she was actually caught up in something way worse? And neither of you thought to tell me?" Jessica let out a strangled sob. I didn't know what to do. "Bullshit." My voice came out like a growl. "You had months. You could have told me. I could have helped you." Tears streaked down her face. I was scared. I took another step back, shaking my head. "So instead, you let me think you were just another liar. Another cheater." I laughed again, but this time, it was filled with something close to rage. "Do you have any idea what this feels like, Jessica? To walk in here, thinking my wife betrayed me, only to find out she's in some screwed-up situation with a man who thinks he owns her?" She didn't answer. But it didn't matter. Because it was too late. I turned toward the door. I needed to get out. I needed air. I needed to think. But before I could take another step, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I didn't answer this time. But then the guy in the corner, his phone buzzed too. He checked the screen, his face paling. Jessica's breath hitched. "It's him." That's when the door burst open. A tall, broad-shouldered man walked in, flanked by two other men in suits. His face was calm, cold. Too calm. Jessica inhaled sharply. She shrank back against the bed, her body going rigid. He tilted his head at her, then shifted his gaze to me. His lips curved into something that wasn't a smile. "Ah," he said smoothly, "so you're the husband." My fingers curled into fists. "And you're the bastard who's been screwing with my wife's head." One of his men stepped forward, like he was about to do something, but the boss lifted a hand, stopping him. His eyes never left mine. "You should leave," he said, voice eerily calm. "Before this gets messier than it already is." I clenched my jaw, my pulse thundering in my ears. Jessica whispered, "Please, just go." And that was it. That was the moment I realized there was nothing left to fight for. She had made her choice. I turned without another word and walked out of the hospital. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember parking. The only thing I remember is standing in the middle of my living room, staring at the pictures on the walls, wedding photos, vacations, memories that now felt like they belonged to someone else. I grabbed my suitcase. I packed my things. And I left. I didn't answer when Jessica called the next day. I didn't respond when she texted. I blocked her number, deleted our photos, and wiped every trace of her from my life. A few weeks later, I got divorce papers in the mail. No fight. No argument. Just clean, cold signatures. I don't know what happened to her after that. I don't want to know. All I know is that I walked away. And for the first time in months, I could finally breathe.